So, it has been a long time since I've shown my vocal pathways over this airway, and I was kind of encouraged by Maya to come back and squabble a little and yap for a little bit longer. But um, the last time I made an episode, I said that I was going to try my best to be an avid participant in my life and not be an observer. I kind of lied. I have a hard time not observing things. Being a participant is being an observer in a sense. Observing allows me to participate and fit in the puzzle pieces of my kaleidoscopic view of life where they fit. I'm not going to force a corner piece into the middle and then get angry when it doesn't fit because everything has its role in the universe, as do I. So all that to say, I couldn't actually stop being an observer, which doesn't mean that I haven't avidly participated in my life. Yesterday, and well, recently, I have reconnected with a mentor of mine, somebody who I like to consider an older brother. I don't know how he perceives me because he has quite a bit of children, and I don't mean literally, I mean metaphorically, but I'm very grateful for him. I'm very grateful for him. I'm no taller than him. I'm no taller now than I was when I last saw him. Last time I saw him, he gave me a note. I keep that note with me every day. We got the blessing of talking for a bit, but people will get to see his greatness today. He's hosting a gallery. I'll be helping him, which is beyond a pleasure and a blessing. However, there is a story about yesterday that stuck out. And it kind of hit me so hard, I didn't really have a chance to recuperate or just mitigate it to being a normal, everyday anecdote because it was just so beautiful. So, this man who knows who he is, I probably said his name before on the podcast, but the reason I'm not saying it at the moment is because I do not think that it's necessary because this could easily be any single one of you, excuse me, human experience wise. And nothing, not taking away from this beautiful soul, but we're walking, we're talking, and we're interacting. Um, him, his girlfriend, and I. And to give you some context into his world just for a little bit, he has two amazing siblings that are his absolute world. His world sometimes revolves around them. It stops and goes with them, and it's so beautiful to see how much he loves and cares for them and how much he provides for them emotionally, physically, just being there in presence and being there in more ways conceivable, in every way conceivable, in more ways than I can even conceive, to even be able to communicate it. He was walking, and out of the blue, we were on the way to a cafe, and he sees a map. Before I continue with this, yes, it was nice being back in the city and being able to walk on roads that I haven't traversed in a while. Really, it's like walking through the same forest, but seeing the trees, but they look a little different each time you walk through that forest. Ultimately, trees very rarely change unless you're on LSD and you're tripping out. But if you're not, then typically trees don't really change. Now, I don't mean the leaves, I mean the root, the bark, the structure, the tree. Ultimately, the perspective that we have grows or shrinks, but it changes. And therefore, everything surrounding us changes with it. And and so he's walking, and he sees his he sees this lady who's letting her kid go to the subway. I think they caressed, they hugged. Mom said, "I love you" to the daughter, and daughter went off on the streetcar all by herself. And this wasn't by any means anybody that's my age. No, she was very much younger than all of us. She's no older than 13. So my mentor, he looks around, looks at us, and empathetically says, "I feel so bad for her." I look around thinking to myself that someone's gotten shot because he would remain stoic in a situation like that. But no, it was because he empathized with that person, and due to his observant nature, was able to place his heart within her, hugging her daughter and understanding how scary it must be to let her go on that streetcar to school all alone, knowing how young she is. As a parent, getting to understand that I am nowhere near parenthood, nor will I ever understand the inner workings of parenthood from the observed perspective, or fully as I could as a parent, but I don't want to be anytime soon. But again, the point is to protect your child and to make sure that they stay safe from all of the evils in the world. Sending them out by themselves and trusting that you've done the right thing is a very hard thing. My mentor, who basically takes care of his sisters, he saw his sisters in that girl. He saw himself in that mom. They had never met a day in their life. They had never interacted, and they may never see each other again. Ever, ever, ever. They may not even be on the same wavelength of presence ever, ever, ever. But in that very moment, their hearts met because he knew what it was like to let someone you love go off into a world and feel helpless. Not just helpless, but know how it feels to do so. Now, I may not be encapsulating just how beautiful and touching this moment was, but this man, the man I consider to be a mentor, I told you he's hosting a gallery. His vision is oftentimes idealist, or some would consider it. We all know the typical Kanye quote, which is, I'm thinking 10 years in the future, and sometimes I stop in the now to give you. But with him, his helpful eye and watchful eye and observant eye, even though he couldn't help that woman, yearned for her. Random interaction on the street. Yearned to help that lady. His vision, his art, his gallery, his collection, what he's been doing now, being a solo artist in a sense. His vision is meticulously documented in every single work that he's done, in every single person that he's impacted, in every single interaction that he's had. He doesn't even have to talk to a person to impact them. He saw that lady dropping her daughter off on the streetcar, which is a seemingly mundane and insignificant thing that happens in the city every day. And with that, he had already created a pathway in his mind as to how he could help that person, how he could help that become not only more efficient, but more but that there may be less emotional strain on the mother. It's weird. It's weird to me because I don't fully know if I'm making sense. I don't fully know if I'm just yapping to the choir and the choir's just shut off their ears and they've all walked out and I'm just talking to an empty church. Like those scenes in the movie where it pans to the person speaking, or like it pans to Commissioner Gordon and he's like talking and then Batman's already gone. That could be me right now. But it was a moment that was too significant to really take away from it. And it reminded me of the type of man that he is and why he's been so impactful, not only in my life, but how he's become the man that he has. Dropped out of university with an intention, traded in a whole first year salary just so that he could do photography. He's a very admirable person. And I think at the age of 23, he started laying the foundations to creating a not-for-profit, which is now known as the Kickback, a charitable organization, not just charitable, but a mogul. And typically we call people moguls, so this is a little bit risky, but a mogul, a stipend, a necessary and vital aspect of each community he resides in, where he does programming, where he helps out. Now, there's so many people behind the scenes that make this well-oiled machine work out, and I'd like to give them their credit when it's time. But at the moment, this is mainly to emphasize the beauty of each small moment and each small interaction that sometimes may go unnoticed. Could this all relate back to me saying why I like being an observer? I don't know. But this isn't about me. This is about being the observable beauty in somebody's soul and being so enamored by it that it shocks you to your core. Not because humanity is evil, not because I have a hard time communicating with humanity or just seeing eye to eye, but because something so small leading to something so significant is just so beautiful to me. And that'll take up the first bit. I would end the episode here, but I guess that's just a segment. As Maya said, I told her, I was like, I have nothing to talk about. I don't think anyone wants to hear what I have to say. I don't even want to hear what I have to say. I've been writing a lot lately, so I was like, I'll just stick to that. I don't have any reason to speak. No more yapping, all right? Come to find out, every time I wrote, I missed speaking just a little bit more. Writing is nice because it can reach people universally with their own voices and their own experiences. I'm not going to use the word tainted because that's a negative connotation, but when we read things in our own voice, it kind of takes away from the universal experience, but it also adds to the subjectivity, which gives it the beauty that resides within it. So my objective with writing was to reach people in a way that they can hear themselves in the poem, that they can hear themselves in the writing, where it wasn't me, it wasn't my voice, it was their voice that they were hearing through that poem. They were reading it, they were understanding it, they were living it in that moment. But there's something about speaking that's just so beautiful that I just can't get away from no matter what I try to do. It follows me. Think of that William Dafoe. I'm using a lot of movie references, but think of that Willem Dafoe scene in Spider-Man where he's trying to escape the Green Goblin, but that mask keeps talking to him. It just won't leave him alone. And I've tried to become more quiet, I guess. Try and not blend in with my environment, but just listen more. I used to always feel like when I was in environments where I had to prove that I was either on their level or on their echelon, but understanding that sometimes listening gets you across way more than speaking is some of the most beautiful things. What is it? Chop wood and drink water? No. Chop trees, build. There's a term, but it's basically paying dividends and doing work each day and marginal gains towards an ultimate goal. But that's kind of what listening is. I guess I've tried so hard to speak up my whole life due to sometimes feeling unheard. I stopped listening to myself and I stopped giving myself a voice through listening. My greatest attribute as a human in any way, as a being able to speak, is by listening. I am the reflection of every perspective given to me, every conversation that I've had with somebody else. I am a reflection. And who would I be without those beautiful perspectives that have nurtured me and nourished my mind to become who I am? I wouldn't be anybody. But what does that come forth from? Listening. Not talking, but listening, opening my heart up and listening. Not opening my mouth, not allowing these vocal cords to vibrate in the way they do so that they can emit sound. No, it's by listening. And by giving myself a chance to listen, I've given myself a chance to allow my voice to be heard and to hear other voices as well. And I think that's really beautiful. Not just for me, but because everyone has a really nice story. Like I met a guy named Stan yesterday at that gallery preparing for it. And it was so amazing. I think we've played basketball once or twice. If not, I've probably observed him playing basketball. He's probably really good, but it's been a while since I've seen anyone play because I have a really troubled relationship with the sport. But we spoke about testimonies and why it's so beautiful. The preaching to the choir thing that I just said came from him. We were talking about how people typically how they like to minister to people, to bring them the gospel and the message, and how they miss the very essence of what Jesus had taught us. He was telling me that the very essence was love thy neighbor, and being human is understanding that to appeal to a human, you first have to be human. You cannot first look at you. We're not going to listen to somebody who has a complex and thinks that they're clearly superior. Some of us do because humans inherently look for guidance. But it's important to realize that the best fundamental teachers are the greatest humans because they are the best at allowing us to see them as human, and they are not ashamed or too prideful to be seen as one. Far too often are we discouraged. Far too often we are discouraged to just be human and allow ourselves to be human and allow ourselves to be swayed by the human experience that we live. And it's important to realize that the very thing that gets you through with people is by being human, if you understand what I mean. So that conversation was also beautiful. I don't know. At the beginning of this, I told you that I had a really love hate relationship with this city. I get exploring it and examining it now, being older and maybe a little wiser, which debatable, makes a difference. But I guess it's kind of like planting a seed in bad soil. It won't exactly sprout. I'm not too sure. I'm not very good with that analogy. I'd imagine if you planted a seed in good soil, it might actually bring forth something. But what I never considered was that I was, if you hear an ESPN notification, log in. It's not that deep. But I had never considered that I was the one actually making the soil bad, like poisoning the soil. I never realized that. I took the time to maybe take the seed out and then actually put it in soil that is conducive for it. I was talking to somebody about it. Uh, she had been telling me that she's been given a rough card in life and that she always feels like she's on a boat that's rocking back and forth. And the question that I first asked her was, what's the first thought someone thinks when they find common ground or stable footing when they've been accustomed to rocky waters their entire lives? One of the first things most people think, other than being grateful for finally escaping, is the lack of familiarity things is the lack of familiarity certainty brings. When someone's always accustomed to uncertainty and things moving and the lack of stability and foundation, it can really be a violent mixture. Mix that with humans who hate change and humans who generally yearn for familiarity. Sometimes stable footing is not what we look for. We'll jump right off of that stable footing and plunge ourselves right back into that water. Not even in the boat, right in that water, because that's the closest to where we felt at home. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. But it's human. It's humanity. It's okay, because every perspective is a beautiful perspective. Now, don't misconstrue this as me humanizing horrid human beings, because I'm not going to sit here and preach to the choir about why so and so didn't really like. I'm not gonna go about that. That's not where I'm going. But I think it's important to understand the beauty in being human and the beauty in accepting it, not just accepting it. Like me, I just discussed my troubles with being human. How I hated emotion. I always saw it as a, a strategy that was used to belittle us, that we used to belittle ourselves, how feeble it is, how futile it is, how weak it was, and how horrible it is. Never did I actually see it as something human, which I am. That's not a bad thing either. I think Nietzsche had this statement which said the best way to separate yourself in this society or actually feel at peace is to become a superhero, because you've defied humanity in a sense. You've kind of given yourself an extra layer of peace. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I love conversation. I also like being wrong. Not because it's human, because I genuinely enjoy learning. So I used to quote that a lot until I realized that looking at humanity from above means nothing if you can't see yourself right there on the ground in that place. It's like bowing down to another human. Worship may be beautiful, but an act of humility and humbleness is also that human getting down to your level and speaking to you where you are right now. Now, this could all be tied back to a parable in the Bible that I gave my friend last night, but I'm sure I'll leave the parables up to you all, because I think some things are better left unsaid, and I think I'm going to leave it to your human experiences to connect this all together. So, with that being said, I love each and every single one of you, and I thank you for allowing me to be human for 20 or so minutes, because it's been a while and I've missed you all, and I'm not can't be sure if y'all miss me, and that's okay. But I'm I really miss you guys, and I'm by you people I mean like the three people that listen to this: my mom, and my mom. So thank you. I love you, mom. And my I think my dad found out about this, so I'm very happy that he did. I love my dad, love him very much, and I love both of my parents. Very blessed to be able to have been born into. That's the ESPN notification telling me to wrap it up. But yeah, I've been blessed, and it's been a blessing to be human, and it's going to be a blessing to continue being human and sharing that with you all. So I love every one of you. I hope that each of you are having a great day. I hope that one of you is enjoying a sweater that may belong to somebody, but that's pointless. Anyway, appreciate you all. Have the best day ever. I love every single one of you, and I hope that you guys learn to love each other the same way that we are not command that we are given. No, I'm not never disregard that, scrap that statement. I just hope that you guys can love each other. There you go. And see each other for who you are as humans, and appreciate each other for being human, because we are human. The perfect song for this would be "I'm Only Human After All," but no. Or maybe. If you're on Spotify, enjoy the song. If you're on YouTube, enjoy hearing the song that is the human voice. I love you, and I can't say that enough. And remember to not be ashamed of being human. All right. Until next time.